So the Buddha suggested that our grasping to a self, to a separate self, is what lies at the heart of our suffering. And Machig Labdrön, the 11th century yogini, talks about ego clinging as the root cause of all our demons, all our neuroses, all our suffering. And yet this is kind of a difficult idea to come to terms with, because everything we do, when we think, when I'm talking, when teaching, when you're listening, when you're thinking something, when you are looking out and looking at all the objects that you are surrounded, all phenomena around you, all of those activities reaffirm the existence of the self. When we look out there, we see something, and I feel like I am over here seeing what's over there. So in other words, that's what Machi calls subject-object cognition. And so all of those things reaffirm or reify the separate existence of the self, not to mention the body that we are in. Here we are, right? So it's a difficult idea to come to terms with. And then the other question is it just interesting from a philosophical, existential philosophical point of view, or a theoretical point of view, or is it actually relevant for our practice? And how is it relevant? So April 12th to 14th, join me for the retreat, Ego Clinging and Compassion. It's remedies that we can use for this time that we live in, this complex world that we live in. Ego Clinging and Compassion, April 12th to 14th, this for that weekend. And we'll explore this idea of ego clinging. But not only how do we cling and what are the details and sort of the mechanism of that, but also how do we cut through? How do we apply the remedy that Machig's primary remedy, which is cutting through ego clinging? What does it really mean in our daily life, and how do we apply it? Now, of course, relaxing and resting in the nature of mind is a core aspect of her advice. But we are not always in the place where we can access that. Sometimes we wake up and we are, for some reason, or something happens in our lives and we are extremely afflicted, extremely encumbered, more emotional than usual. And then someone says, well, just rest in the nature of your mind, but it doesn't feel accessible in that moment. So what do we do then? So we use these different levels of remedies that Machig recommended based on our level of affliction, so that we can have something to apply wherever we may find ourselves, apart from the level of our practice, but on a daily basis, depending on our level of affliction. So join me for this ego clinging retreat, where we will examine these remedies and also see how we can actually apply them. And that leads to the resolution of this subject-object cognition and the clinging, the fixation on a self. And as we release that, naturally self-arising compassion comes into our lives, that kind of spaciousness and that self-arising compassion. So we'll explore these ideas, but we'll focus on applicability and on practice. April 12th to 14th. See you there. Thank you.